to cover story. There are about 106 rapes a day in our country, and these of course are only the reported ones. Of course, the horrific rape again and again of little Asifa and finally her murder beats any statistic. Add to that is of course the rape of the girl in Unnao and the murder of her father when she dared to complain. Where exactly is our country going? Why aren't we able to stop such cases? Are our laws enough, or are we not implementing our laws carefully? These are some of the questions that we're going to be answering in today's cover story. Joining me is Saumya Saxena. She's a family law expert and she's also worked on the Verma Commission that was constituted after the Nirbhaya case. They actually submitted the report within 29 days, am I right?
That's right.
We have Namita Bhandare. She's a journalist and she's also an activist and she's written a lot about gender equality and gender issues. And we have Deepika Bhardwaj. She's a filmmaker. She's made a film against the misuse of Article 498A. That is, of course, when in cases of marriages and case of marital cases, when laws are misused against the husband and the relatives of the husband. Well, Saumya, I want to begin with you. You know, the debate before I came in, a lot of people were asking in my office that maybe our laws are not strong enough. Why don't we go in for, say, death punishment for rapes? Why don't we castrate the rapist? Will that be the deterrent?
No, in fact, I'm glad we are bringing this up now because there's a lot that's been going on in the media and I think everyone's talking of death penalty as though it's that one thing that can salvage the situation. But I'll tell you, death penalty has never really acted as deterrent. In fact, there have been cases where, you know, once we have the same punishment for rape and murder, we're kind of incentivizing the rapist to not leave evidence by committing the murder. So the focus cannot always be on the culprit or the perpetrator of the crime, but we also have to make sure that these laws are adequately protecting the survivors because we do want rape survivors, right? We change the whole terminology from victim to survivor because we don't want to equate rape with murder. In a lot of cases, this is precisely the reason why conviction rates are so low. Because to give you an example, there was a rape case in Bengal where there were almost 30 people accused for raping one woman. And nobody got conviction because 30 people are never going to be given death penalty, right? Because we do have death penalty for gang rape in our country. Similarly, in the Kathua case, even though it is, you know, it is not really a crime against a child, it's also a crime against a certain community given that, you know, what the circumstances were like then. We do have death penalty on the table, but I can almost see the narrative building that, oh, it was the juvenile who was most brutal. This was also the case in Nirbhayas. And that way, everybody else escapes conviction, and the juvenile we know will not get death penalty. And judges are usually very, very hesitant to come up with something of this sort. They wouldn't easily or lightly give death penalty. So in order for us to affect implementation, we also have to remember what death penalty is, right? It's the last stage of conviction. We have, let's say, a crime has happened. It'll first be an FIR, then there'll be a charge sheet, then there'll be a trial, then there'll be conviction, then there'll be sentencing, right? Death penalty comes in when we're talking of sentencing. And it's probably the last stage, whereas where we really need to bring the change is the first point of interaction between a state and subject, right? The moment you make the complaint. That's what's going to make a difference and create deterrence because we need surety of punishment rather than severity of it.
That's the argument I've heard you also make, that certainty is better than just severity. But, you know, something like a castration, that would, I think, send the fear of God through these
You know, Priya, I tend to agree that we have a very good law. I think the Justice Verma Commission, I mean, these were the brightest legal minds in our country at the time. They did a lot of work in 29 days. They've come up with a great report. We should maybe go back and read that report. You know, you don't have to keep on reinventing the wheel. Unfortunately, what happens is you're seeing a lot of knee-jerk reaction, right? So we were angry because the juvenile was getting away in the December 2012 case. So we said, let us lower the age of juveniles from 18 to 16. Now, what is your answer when the rapist is 15? What is your answer? You know, so at what point does it stop? At some point, I'm sorry, this is not going to be a popular answer, but the fact of the matter is that it's hard work. Death sentence is the easiest thing for a government to do, and you placate everybody's bloodlust. That is not a solution. If you're going to change society, if you're going to change mindsets, you are going to have to roll up your sleeves. You're going to have to say, I need to look at the education curriculum. I need to look at sex education. What is sex education? It's consent, right? It's teaching men and boys. You know, the Prime Minister in the year he was sworn in, you will remember his Red Fort speech where he said, don't curb your daughters, control your sons. What happened in those 4 years? I want to know one initiative. You have Beti Bachao and this karo and that karo and Swachh Bharat. I want to know what initiative was taken by this powerful Prime Minister coming right from the top, says control your sons, and then what happens? Was there a Man Ki Baat, or was there a initiative? You know, we were done with tinkering with the law. That is tinkering. I mean, if you're going to, what is it? I mean, you just look, I mean, you talked about two particularly hideous cases, Kathua and Unnao. There is a story coming in from Surat.
Yeah,
a 7-year-old girl with 82 injuries on her body. There is a story coming out of Assam, 11-year-old girl gang raped and then burnt alive. You know, and we're not talking about adults. So we have a law. We need to implement the law, and we need to do the hard work of changing mindsets. Otherwise, we can just forget about India as being a country. This is no country for women and girls. We should accept it and just pack our bags and wait for the next crime to happen.
Which is really sad. I know you want to talk against the misuse, but for a while, just let's first focus on what can be done in terms of strengthening the hands, you know, because implementing the law is the answer, but how do we do it? You know, barely any of the cases actually reach the conviction stage. What happens in between? How do we fix that problem?
I think, Priya, I would like to take it on from where Namita left. It's whenever such heart-wrenching cases happen, there's a lot of knee-jerk reaction. Now, I can go back to when Nirbhaya happened and similar discussions were happening whether death penalty should be there or not.
Right, huh?
Then we got fast-track courts made. Now, at that time, the discussions, for the sake of discussions, we have a lot of discussions, and there are immediate actions as well. If we talk in terms of, like, say, fast-track courts, what's happening in fast-track courts? Have we looked at it? The fast-track courts, which are supposed to deliver judgment in 1 year, 1.5 years, there are cases lingering on for 3 years, 4 years. So it is very easy to say change the law, strengthen the law. We already have a law under the rape law right now. The statement alone can lead to conviction of the person. So nowhere I think there is such a stringent law which is there. So the law is strong. What we really need, and this is not just for the rape laws, this is for all crimes, we are in dire need of having the police reforms and the judicial reforms implemented. There are 40% or 45% of the cases in which the judges are not absent. There is no hearing that is taking place. There are postponements of cases, and the cases linger on for years and years. Yeah. So these are the places, and I remember reading a report which said that there are more NGOs per people in India than actually police personnels. So imagine a situation like that, when we do not have adequate forces, when we do not have adequate judges to look into these cases, and these cases being heard and then sentencing done fast, then I don't think the situation on ground can actually change.
Yes, I wanted to come in. I do have this report which I brought with me today. This is published by the Human Rights Watch. It's called Everyone Blames Me. And it basically looked at the law 5 years after it was brought in. And it talks about at every stage the roadblocks and the barriers to justice, starting from the police station, starting from very hostile, police forcing settlements, police, you know, we are all outraged about Unnao, but there is a case here in district, Lalitpur district in Uttar Pradesh during Samajwadi Party. I'm sorry, I don't mean to bring in the political party because they're all the same, where exactly the same thing happened. The wife is raped, the husband wants to file a case, the police is not filing, she goes to court, the court says, no, you have to file an FIR. Then the police station takes another 8 months to file the FIR. Meanwhile, she's moved out to the village because she's been, you know, how do you expect, there are, the law lays very stringent conditions on medical treatment. You are still doing the two-finger test. You're still saying, does she have a hymen or not have a hymen? How is that relevant? It's against the law. What about her access to legal aid and assistance? You know, I mean, does she get it? I'm not sure. So,
and when you talk about her settlement, Namita, this is actually, and now I'm going to come back to the misuse part. Misuse of any law is actually, it is of course very wrong thing happening to the accused who's falsely accused, but it also takes away the belief from the real victims. It harms women as well. Now, when you're talking about settlement, Namita, there have been recent cases where settlements like these are happening. In fact, there was a recent case where the court, in very strong words, told the Delhi Commission of Women that your counselors are advising complainants wrongly, because one of the DCW counsel actually told a woman, you file a rape case against your boyfriend, तुम्हारी शादी कोर्ट में ही हो जाएगी. So, you know, there was so
it's not
aberration. It's about settlements happening in these cases.
Sometimes you put yourself in the girl's shoes. Maybe sometimes you'll say, okay, chalo, he's offering me 5 lakhs. I'm not going to get justice. Maybe this is blood money.
But how long can we continue to see that happening? How long can we continue to see that happening?
You're talking about misuse. You're talking about blackmail. That's a different thing. I'm talking of blood money. I'm talking of settlement as blood money, which is wrong.
Yeah, of course, it is wrong, but settlement in any ways in rape cases is wrong. It should not happen.
It is wrong, but you know, as Namita said, maybe the person will say, okay, let me at least get something rather than running to courts, being insulted, you know, having to explain my story and again and again.
But
So
I don't think a crime like rape can be justified in that way.
No, it cannot
be justified.
And then some people will start seeing this as a tool of extortion.
No, but some people will see it as anything. Some people will say she asked for it. Why did she wear these short clothes? That is rape culture. That is what I said. It's a hard, long slog, and you need to start. You need to say that when next time a vice chancellor or a politician or anybody talks rubbish like this, we will shut him down. There will be zero tolerance. Absolutely. You have BJP MLAs are taking part in a procession in support of rapists.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have a chief minister saying boys will be boys.
All sorts of things. And you know, my only trouble with accepting an argument which is entirely based on misuse is simply that almost all laws, including the most misused one being defamation, we never talk of it in terms of let's repeal this or let's do something about it. But when it comes to laws or, you know, on crimes against women, we tend to be very careful and, you know, about, you know, oh, this is where it's crossing the line and so on and so forth. So I agree with you that it does hurt my cause to have a law misused, but I wouldn't think this is an exception or, you know, exclusive to laws for crimes against women. And so, I mean, just going back to the idea of implementation and how thorough our law is in a lot of ways. So the POCSO, which is prevention of crime against children in particular, so that law says that if a child tries to file a complaint and the complaint is not registered, within the policeman who refuses to register this complaint can go to jail for up to 6 months. Now, in the Unnao case especially, we get a sense that the more powerful you are, the more likely you are to get away with it. So one of the important things that laws need to target is that everyone is actually equal before the law. So we can have the best laws in the country, but if somebody knows how to circumvent them, our conversations are always going to be about, you know, what more will it take? And what more it will take is actually, of course, mindset, but that sounds like a very abstract thing that we're talking about. But to just give you an example of the kind of society we're dealing with, the term Asifa was trending on porn sites in India.
Yeah.
This is the society, these are the people we are working with, right? And then we talk of, you know, death penalty or harsher crimes. Do you think people even know in a village when they're committing a crime like this that
it's not just on porn sites, Saumya. It's so sad that we actually have rape videos.
We have rape videos which
they're
are
available
sold,
in
right?
UP and the price of 50 rupees.
There was a recent documentary which was, I think it was Quint that did it, and they actually showed
rape
how
culture
a
in
lot
Haryana.
of people, rape culture in Haryana, which actually talks about how people think it's consensual, so women should also be punished for rape because in certain ways they bring it on themselves. Right? So a whole lot of men went on and said that, oh, you know, this is...
I don't agree with you when you say that it's an abstract concept. I mean, if you look at Me Too, who would have thought that a bunch of women would bring down Harvey Weinstein?
Yes.
Who would have thought? In 2 months they did, and he was exposed as a predator, and not just him, but a lot of other careers. And don't talk about misuse.
No, of course not.
A lot of predatory men were put on notice. So it happened in months, so it's not abstract. There has to be a will, there has to be political will, and there has to be visionary leadership.
But see, Namita, this works in a case where the person is famous or has something to lose or can be shamed. You know, like for instance, we had this instance of a governor coming and, you know, doing this to a journalist and she shamed him and he apologized immediately because he has something to lose.
Good. So
but
next
most
time,
of these people don't have anything to lose.
Yes, I would love to see the leader of a political party saying, okay, my guy, okay, my MLA or my member or my spokesperson or my whoever, you know, my new entrant is accused of such and such, I am suspending you pending investigation. Has the BJP MLA from Unnao been suspended from the party? Were the BJP MLAs in Jammu, were they sacked or were they allowed the dignity of resigning? Why were they? They should have been sacked. They were there. What is the action that is taken against the Kathua Bar Association lawyers? You are obstructing policemen from filing a charge sheet. You should be banned from practice.
Exactly.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say we need to take a break, but we're going to come back and carry on. What else can be done? Because on the one hand, we have a Prime Minister who says, let's change the culture. Let's, look at our boys instead of, just saying the girls should be safeguarded. Let's teach our boys the right way to do. This isn't the right way to begin by teaching his MLAs the right way to behave. Shouldn't that be the answer? So stay with us. Welcome back to Cover Story. We are here discussing the fallout of the rape cases and also what can be done to prevent such crimes. Namita, I interrupted you before the break. We were discussing, basically what can be done. You said the people should be held accountable. You wanted political parties to actually start and send the right message.
Absolutely, zero tolerance. I'm not saying that few people will be made, but few people will inevitably be made scapegoats. But the next time you hear somebody saying boys will be boys, the next time, instead of outraging that 24-hour social media outrage, I want to see someone stand up and say, well, I'm going to sack you from the party, or I'm going to suspend you for 24 hours. Even that is good enough for me. Next time the Vice Chancellor says, oh no, separate hostel timings for girls, and we need to call these things out, not just on social media, but I think as a society, civil society is now so polarized, everything becomes political. I am shocked that Kathua actually has people defending it. At the end of the day, you have got the body of an 8-year-old child who was not even allowed to be buried in her own village. Who is going to answer for that? You keep your politics out, but this is, to my mind, this is the core of the issue.
There are a lot of different versions to Kathua rape, and I don't wish to part from
that's
either side. It's a terrible
political
crime
narrative,
that has
but a rape has happened, and a murder has happened.
A murder has happened.
I think one of the important things we need to do is A, look at crimes against women and children, and B, look at crimes against women and children in a specific circumstance such as Kathua, where it was more than a crime against a child. It was actually a crime against the Bakarwal Muslim community, and we shouldn't really make bones about calling it out on that, right? Because it wasn't just crime against, because if we were actually just discussing crime against children, then there's a lot more to be said at a more local level. Let's say, for instance, when we were looking at POCSO, we realized that the majority of cases of crime that take place against children, crimes of molestation, they happen to them through people who are familiar with them, people who are a part of their family. Yeah. Now, again, the convenient argument of increase punishment and give death penalty actually affects reporting of the crime, because let's say in a scenario, and this is very likely, where the child's uncles, mother's brothers, father's brothers, cousins, brother, father, somebody, a male within family has actually molested this child, there is tremendous pressure to not report such a crime, because you don't want death penalty on the table for somebody who's a blood relative, right? So these are things that come to us a lot later when we go deeper into questions of what is specific to a crime against a child. And it was almost really strange for me to see the Minister of Women and Child Development, who went on and said, no, the first thing, her first reaction literally was totally not nuanced. Her first reaction was that we should have death penalty under POCSO. And I was like, if you read a single case of POCSO, you would realize that majority of these are going to be members of a family where nobody wants death penalty.
No, and it's
no,
not
but
just,
the whole point is
yeah.
if people are actually looking at death penalty as the deterrent. Now, death penalty is there in gang rape, right? So, have
it's
gang
already
rape
there.
Has it worked as a deterrent at all?
It's already there.
Exactly.
You're talking about the Ministry
discussion.
for Women and Child, but I mean, you tell me there have been, I mean, I'm shocked that so many of the women representatives of this ruling party have said the most appalling things. The Meenakshi Lekhi saying, oh, first you all cried Dalit, Dalit, now you're crying women, women. What is this nonsense? I mean, what is this, a nursery rhyme?
And even the lady
They're
who was
politicizing it.
And then they say that you're politicizing it. But who politicizes it?
We don't
never
need
politicize
political affiliations to be angry about this.
Nirbhaya, did we ask anybody's religion?
Yeah.
Did we ask her religion, his religion, or their religion? Nothing. It was, we spoke in one voice. And it's a sad comment on our country that in 6 years, we've polarized so badly. I mean, that we cannot even empathize with an 8-year-old and her family.
That is true.
I think
But,
politicization or bias should not be created from either side. I personally believe it, Namita. let the case be investigated in its truest form. We really don't know what
No one's
happened, and the
arguing
police
with
should be
that.
completely free
But we
to
know that the
investigate.
child has
But
been raped and
of
killed.
course,
It's not
of course,
about
there
that.
is-
There's
of course,
physical
there is-
evidence
of
of
course,
that.
of course,
Let
there
the
is no-
court,
of course there is
the
no
court,
doubt.
let there be due process. Let the charge
Absolutely.
sheet be filed.
Absolutely.
You cannot have Kathua Bar Association preventing the charging of filing of a charge sheet.
Absolutely,
How can-
absolutely.
how
But
do you justify
more and
that?
more we are seeing that when the accused is favorable to one party, there's so much of
No, but that's-
politicization of these
So
crimes.
who's politicizing?
Everybody is. I think I see it happening
No,
across
see, the
the board.
outrage happened, what, 20, 30 days later. If people had not reacted,
If the media hadn't picked it up,
if it is-
I'm not
she
sure
would
if
have not even
half
been given a
of
burial.
people would have
Yeah,
known
yeah.
about this. Exactly.
A lot of people are saying that it was only a murder and somebody was convicted, and then after 2 months the
there's a-
charge sheet was changed.
Surely there's
So
a
there-
post-mortem, her uterus has been damaged, unless all of this is what, faking news?
There is
Maybe
no-
the body is also faking news. Maybe
in
there
fact,
was no such
these are
girl.
precisely the kind of rumors that make me doubt, the due process of law, because I feel like every time we speak of crime against women, there's always going to be some conspiracy theory about how
I
it
agree.
didn't actually happen. Right? So we should, the fact that there is an 8-year-old dead, the fact that the Unnao rape case has actually happened and she was a minor when it happened, now she's post-18 and no action has been taken against the MLA, really should make us think about how little we care about
Or
feminist
even against
causes,
the
right?
police if her
And
father
then we're
died in
expected to
police
believe in the
custody.
due process of law.
That's
Somebody
murder.
was killed
Someone
in
has to be
police-
accountable.
That's
You
appalling.
can't just suspend
That's
6
appalling.
cops and be happy that you've done your job.
Right.
But okay, we all agree over here that death penalty may be not the answer. What about castration then? That would at least put the fear of God, because you need to up the ante somewhere.
So castration was something that we considered in the Verma Commission.
You did, huh?
And the thing is that there's two kinds of castration. There's chemical castration and there's physical castration. Now physical castration is something that does take place in a lot of, let's say, Middle Eastern countries. But I'm extremely wary of borrowing laws from any of these jurisdictions which are not democracies, for the simple reason that if they have castration and death penalty for something like rape, they also have laws that prevent women from driving and prevent women from wearing the clothes they like and so on and so forth. So these are not jurisdictions
Let's
want
borrow
to
the
borrow
laws we
from.
like and not all of them.
So, but it's a slippery slope,
Yeah.
because
What about
it's
setting a precedent?
chemical castration in the US, so far as my knowledge goes, it's used as a curative and not a preventive strategy. So if somebody has been diagnosed with pedophilia, they administer chemical
And I
castration.
think he has to volunteer for it.
And he has to
Sometimes
volunteer, but
men
that's why it
understand
will-
that they have a problem and they say, no, I want to opt for chemical
But it will
castration.
never work in India. Imagine trying to administer and get somebody back every 3 months to administer that dose. We are not going to have the infrastructure to support that. So chemical castration in a country like India, you're right, there people register and they're sent these reminders and then they go to the hospital themselves and get, so it's like a curative thing. You're trying to cure it. But as a preventive, sort of a strategy, then I think by that logic, majority of Indian men should
If
get
the
it,
person
because
is found
it's-
guilty and if the person has to be sentenced, the person would be behind bars. So
It's accessible.
right. So
because when laws do work,
It's-
you don't need something like
it's
castration.
only, I think,
right?
if we are talking about a person who has been found guilty, allowed to be left again in the society, and then how do we deal with that kind of a
At
situation?
the risk of repeating myself, and I know this is a boring solution that nobody wants to hear because castration is exciting and death sentence is even more exciting, but the fact of the matter is that you've just got to do the hard work. There's no way around it.
I really feel, Namita, I think the most important discussion over here where I don't see experts coming in to actually assess what's the situation of our police force right now, what's the
Mention that,
situation of our judiciary right now. If these two departments are not functional, I'm sure 10 years away, hence also we'd be sitting here in a discussion, and I think discussing exactly the same thing.
We totally out of time. So basically, I began by thinking we don't have strong enough laws. I was all for death penalty and even castration, but we've argued those through. And basically, at the end of the day, what really has to come through is it's not the laws, but the implementation and the implementers, the police forces, the mindset of the people, beginning straight from school level. As Namita says, roll your sleeves and just get the work going. We have to begin the change from somewhere. So why not now? Why wait for that next headline and that next horrific rape? Well, that's it for now. Thank you for watching this show. We'll see you again same time next week.